so a couple of quick things, and then Miss Krauser and Mr. Toy jump in whenever you feel free, because, yeah, this is definitely not a one-man show. But here we go. So just to spite Miss Madalena, I'm going to go ahead with this one acronym. I'm going to call it the DAM. But anyway, we have two big tents, if you want to think of them like that, two big clubs and or associations that we are going to be running this year, as we talked about in Town Hall. The first of those being Digital Media Arts Club. I'm going to refer to it as the DAM. Don't tell Miss Madalena, please. And then the Multicultural and Inclusion Association, which I will just keep throwing up as MIA, which again, not the greatest connotation. We will not be missing in action this time, but just for so I didn't have to type as much. I'm a little lazy. I went and referred it to MIA. I will be the staff advisor for Digital Media Arts Club, and Ms. Krauser and Mr. Toy will be running, and Mr. Toy will be helping run parts of the Multicultural and Inclusion Association. And from last time, as you guys saw, we went through a few of like the different clubs that will be kind of put under those tents or those umbrellas, and we'll get to that in a moment. But let's talk a little bit about the structure of these big clubs, these big tents. First of those is we're going to kind of make this a little bit more formal than years past. This is going to look a lot like in terms of like a student government and the way we are going to have a few elected positions to kind of help with running these kind of big tent meetings. More on that momentarily when we get to kind of like when they're meeting and stuff like that. But we are looking for a few elected positions for each of the two main clubs. And those are the positions that we are looking for. President obviously will work on, creating agendas. Secretary will obviously work on, keeping track of everything, keeping track of what's going on in each of the subcommittees or what we used to call clubs. And reporting that back out. If there's upcoming events, they're keeping track of those, what have you. And then lastly, we're going to start with a position called activities coordinator that might eventually transition into something of a treasurer if we raise funds for some kind of event that we're doing. But these are going to be the elected positions. So each of those Big Tent clubs, both the DAM and the MIA, are going to have each of these positions filled. And that's something we're going to be looking to do by our first actual meetings. And I'll tell you when those are momentarily. So if you are interested in running for one of these positions, we're asking that you submit a brief video, 30 seconds to 60 seconds. If you were in student government, you probably did something familiar, or if you remember voting on those earlier this year, they were kind of quick, short, just snippets of introducing yourself and why you think you're a good fit for said position. If you could, and we're going to give you a few weeks on this, if you would like to submit your video to either myself or Ms. Krauser, that would be great. We need those by Sunday, January 3rd, so all the way in 2021. It seems like so far away, but it really is only a few weeks away. And we'd like to kind of compile those, put those together so that when we actually meet in our first actual meetings in each of our respective clubs, that we will have your guys' videos ready to go so we can show those off as one of the main things we do for our first club Big Tent meetings. Obviously, no late entries will be accepted. I think this is more than enough time. If you have any technical difficulties or any issues like that, then obviously feel free to email either myself or Ms. Krauser when it comes to that. So in these Big Tent meetings, I'll put this information on at the last slide too, if you miss it here. The first Multicultural and Inclusion Association meeting is going to be Tuesday, January 5th at 2 o'clock. And the first DAM meeting is going to be, that's funny, is going to be Friday, January 8th at 2 o'clock. We're going to try to continually do these kind of the first, I'm going to say this probably a few times, but the first full week of every month. So that it kind of just is kind of connected in your head that Tuesdays at the beginning of the month will be for MIA, and then Fridays at the beginning of the month will be for the Digital Media Arts Club. During these Big Tent meetings, so this is going to kind of be like a quick, if you imagine kind of like a parliamentary roll call, kind of an update from each of the different subcommittees, aka clubs. We'll give those updates in those meetings. We will also be planning future events / presentations of Town Hall. One of the big things that we're going to be pushing in each of these clubs will definitely be kind of working towards goals, whether that be a presentation at a Town Hall, or a kind of like a future event. Maybe in this case, it would be like a virtual event, but something like, for instance, Cinema Club had done last year a kind of film festival. So that could be something that your club is working towards. So that'd be something you'd be talking about in one of those big tent meetings. You would also be scheduling future subcommittee meetings that are meeting throughout the month, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you've used breakout rooms in Zoom, which I know you guys have, we'll have a few extra dates that you can then plan on, scheduling your subcommittee to meet. That would be similar to like what we did in years past. So like if K-pop club, needs to meet, or if Jewish Culture Club needs to meet, or if Pride Club needs to meet, they would have that preset meeting time for their subcommittee. And maybe a few clubs are meeting at that same time. Or Ms. Krauser would post a link. We would set up your breakout rooms, and that way you could go ahead and attend your subcommittee, aka club meetings. And that is pretty much what the big tent meetings will look like, kind of a way of organizing, way of everybody checking in, so that we have a little bit of a direction. And again, the president, vice president would be the ones kind of orchestrating the agenda and everything else for those kind of big tent meetings. So I'm going to pause for a moment there. I want to talk a little bit about subcommittees because I'm sure that's what you guys are interested in. But for just a brief moment, I know I'll have Q&A at the end. Does anybody at this point have anything, either Ms. Krauser or Mr. Toy, to add and or any questions, just real quick, as I'm going through some of this newer information?
I have a question.
Sure.
So are the elected positions for the big, like the MIA and the, or are they for the subcommittees?
I like that you censored yourself. There is a little child on screen, so I thank you for that. But it's, it's blocking water. Don't worry. But anyway, so yes, it would be for the big tent. So each, the digital media arts and the multicultural inclusion would both have their own respective presidents, vice presidents, so on and so forth, right? When we get to the subcommittees, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. There would be like, a head of each subcommittee. If we have like a small club, aka subcommittee that's large, because sometimes we do have some very large clubs, they might choose to do like a few like elected positions within that. But yeah, when I'm referring to president, it would be president of either Digital Media Arts Club or president of Multicultural Inclusion Association. So hopefully that kind of makes sense.
It does.
And I'm assuming, and you guys probably figured this, you'd probably only run for one position for each club. You might be a part of both kind of big tents, right? You might be a part of maybe a subcommittee in each. However, obviously, we would want your full attention to your duty, so you wouldn't want to be splitting being president and president of both clubs, unless you're trying to take over the world. But I would stop you right in your path. Mr. Toy, Ms. Krauser, am I missing anything, at least for the big tent stuff before we get to subcommittees?
I don't think so. I think just remember the officer positions that we posted on there. Mr. Snyder and I had a conversation about it like a week or two ago, kind of flushing out this structure piece. But I know with all of the other subcommittees, so like Black Culture Club, for instance, which is part of MIA this year, spoiler alert, if people who had leadership positions in that, which I can see some of you now, if we want to tweak the name but still have those same functions within that group because it's grown so large, that's totally okay. So remember, there are other leadership opportunities besides those ones. Those are just the fixed ones that we kind of erected before we create these underlying pillars underneath. And for all of those underlying pillars underneath, these buckets underneath the big umbrella, their names can be changed and can be fluid. And even though we're talking about some that we've had in the past, like K-pop or like book club or Black Culture Club and Jewish Culture Club. And that's not to say these ones won't exist, but they don't have to, and we can add new ones and take some away. So they're very fluid right now. And during that first meeting, when Mr. Snyder and I kind of divide out and conquer, because we're going to conquer the world. When we divide and conquer, that's when we'll decide what those buckets underneath the umbrellas look like. So kind of keep that in mind. If you were like, oh, shoot, I wish we would have had Club Alphabet Soup last year and we didn't. And I just made that up. So please don't actually pitch this one. But if you come back and say, I really wanted a Club Alphabet Soup, first of all, what the heck is that? And second of all, what function you think it would serve, and make sure you have a little posse behind you that can support that. Because what did we say, Mr. Snyder? Like 4 people or something?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna have a few requirements. In years past, we've kind of stretched ourselves thin. This is why we're kind of using this year as a kind of a jumping off point to reorganize a little bit, where we'd have like a club that maybe doesn't have very many members. So at that point, we could maybe be using our time to kind of support a different kind of a subcommittee or different kind of club. So we'll talk more about that. But yes, absolutely. Hopefully, again, Kylie, that answered your questions. So let's talk about these subcommittees then. And then again, if you have any questions, if you want to either put them in the chat or hold them off to the end, we can try to answer those as best as possible. So here we go. Let's talk about these real quick. So the subcommittees we had talked about at Town Hall, and the subcommittees that we, at least, or clubs that we've ran in the past, look a little something like this, right? You might probably, if you're a returning student, have been associated with one of these. And if that is something we want to wish to continue, then yes, that first meeting, we are going to try to kind of confirm and kind of cement some of these subcommittees into being. But just to give you an idea of what we've done in the past, this is what we've done kind of on the digital media art side, but also as well on the Multicultural and Inclusion Association side. Let's see here. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit more about these subcommittees. The requirements, as Ms. Krauser had stated, were that we'd have at least 4 members. We felt like 4 is kind of like a sweet spot, just because of the fact that I feel like you can get like maybe you and a buddy, but I feel like getting it to 4 means that there's a little bit of a movement there. I do like the Alyssa, the definition of the Alphabet Soup Club. That's brilliant. But anyway, so yeah, at least 4 more members. And then of course, yeah, I think we should quit what we're doing right now and just all join the Alphabet Soup Club. Each subcommittee must appoint a chair. So going back to Kylie's kind of question / kind of Ms. Krauser kind of elaborated on it as well. If it's a smaller subcommittee, say for example, you have just that bare minimum of 4 people, then you really only need just the one person kind of like chairing it, AKA leading it. So when we had the big tent meetings, you would be kind of sharing, here's what we're working on. Will it be virtual? Yes, for now it'll be virtual. So you would elect a chair. If you need more positions than that, then obviously that would be up to the subcommittee. You guys would be working, your goal would be really to working towards an event or a presentation that you could give back to the OEC community. So that looks like, for instance, using Town Hall as a platform. And we've done this in the past. Like I remember the MSA has done lots of good presentations about like cultural stuff. Same is true with a lot of our other like MIA, like past clubs, right? That they've done very good presentations or events. So I think that is something that each subcommittee can kind of like work towards. That'd be kind of like the direction of your club. And that's something that you guys could keep us, I guess, up to date on when we have the big tent meetings. Any of the new, and again, I just put this in last second, Ms. Krauser, so tell me if I'm misreading this, but if you would, I guess as we're moving forward, any new subcommittees probably would want to present their ideas to the staff advisor first, so we could kind of flush out the ideas, make sure everything sounds legit. And then you would probably make a quick presentation at the big tent meeting to kind of show like, hey, we're the new kids on the block kind of thing. And this is how we're going to be kind of moving forward. And at that point, you would have shown us that you have, again, at least 4 people interested or members, so that you can have a sustainable subcommittee. But does that sound about right, Ms. Krauser?
Yeah, I like it. That's perfect.
All righty. So that's kind of the deal with subcommittees. I want you to think of these subcommittees as kind of like the way we kind of had our clubs. It's just that this This time around, we're kind of all reporting back to like a main organization where we're kind of keeping track of what everyone's doing to kind of keep us honest, but to also kind of, it could also be a way of kind of advertising your subcommittee to other people, right? So by you at these big tent meetings that maybe a lot of people attend that might not know which subcommittee they want to get involved with, it'll be your way of kind of sharing what you're working on, what you're doing. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to y'all. So those are subcommittees. And really what we want to use the remainder of the time today to do is kind of gauge your interest on kind of where your thoughts are right now with these subcommittees. So that is what we are going to do next. So let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. So we want to see what you're interested in. So first I'm going to actually ask you to do something for me real quick. If you could either open a new tab or get out your cell phone. I'm going to give you a code momentarily to join a Nearpod. And we're going to do a couple quick polls so that we can gauge kind of the interest for previous clubs. But at the same time, I would appreciate in a moment just for you, if you have any other ideas for maybe potential subcommittees or clubs, I'll give you a chance to go ahead and kind of put those up as well. So let me get you the info that you will need. So let me get that real quick. All loaded up. And if you have any questions, it looks like Ms. Krauser's been answering them. But if you'd like to ask a question now, it would be a great time because I got a little bit of a pause.
So if you guys held any elections last year for the clubs that you were a part of, we'll just have to re-elect you, I guess, or reconfigure since our situation looks so different now. We would have to do a little reshuffling, but that's not to say you can't still be the president, vice president, whatever of your subcommittee. It just you might have to run again and hold new elections.
All righty. So here's how this is going to work. If you've used this before in either mine or Ms. Krauser's class, I think even Mr. Toy, I've heard like Nearpod is hit a classroom near you as well. I think even
Miss Madalena tried it. Mr.
Oh my gosh. I think we've jumped to I'm going to have to jump out of the Nearpod train then because I gotta keep my hipster credentials and it sounds like it's too in these days. I'm going to move on to just smoke signals.
I love Nearpod. I use it almost every day.
Same. All right. So here we go. If you guys could go ahead to join.nearpod.com. The code is going to be 6M2XZ as in zebra, I believe. And I'm going to ask you guys a few questions real quick. Okay. I'm not going to necessarily share the polls. We'll share those at a little future date at our first meetings. But I am curious to see what your guys' thoughts are for a couple of these things. So again, that's in the chat. If you somehow lose the code, let's go ahead and let's try a couple poll questions real quick. So if you have that pulled up, the first poll is on behalf of the Digital Media Arts Clubs. I'm curious, out of the ones that we've run in the past, which ones you are interested in being a part of. I believe I have it so that you can maybe vote for more than one if that's something that you're a little interested in a couple different things. But I am curious again what your interest is at the moment. So I'll let that run for a moment. And then I'm going to switch to the same thing for the Multicultural and Inclusion Association. I'll do that as well. And again, I just want to know from previous ones what seems to be something that you're interested in. Now, if you're not interested in any of these, then by all means, you can skip this one. You don't have to vote, but it does give me an idea, and Ms. Krauser an idea, kind of where the interest is this particular time around. Okay, so it looks like, let's see here, just to keep tabs. I got about 18% of you that still hasn't answered, so I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds to lock in your vote real quick. And I know one of the things that we will discuss in our first Big Tent in terms of digital media arts is kind of like where the interest is currently, so we can kind of solidify some of those subcommittees. And then in a moment, I'll give you some opportunities for maybe pitching some, maybe a couple other ideas like Alphabet Soup Club. All right.
No, that's mine. You cannot have it.
That sounds more like a digital media arts type thing, y'all. I don't know about you, but anyway. Alrighty, so I'm going to move on to the next poll. Thank you guys so much for your interest in digital media arts. So on Ms. Krauser's side, we went together and put in a similar poll. So I have the options from previous years up there. If you could go ahead and share your interest for these, if this is something you are interested in being a part of. Again, being able to be a part of multiple subcommittees is a thing. We're going to try to make sure that you have the opportunity to do that. But again, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. So keep that in mind when you eventually join these subcommittees. So I'll give you a few moments to answer those as well. Thank you guys again. Yearbook, you want to talk about that, Mr. Choi? There's a few questions about that.
Do you? Yeah, I added a slide to your slideshow. Will it show up in this Nearpod experience?
It's not going to show in the Nearpod, but I'm going to, when I go back to the slideshow, is it at the end?
Yeah, I added 2 slides at the end.
Perfect.
I added one for Yearbook and one for Pride Club also.
Perfect. Yeah, so you want to talk real quick, I guess, Ms. Krauser. So Ms. Krauser is heading the MIA kind of big tent, but I know that Mr. Choi, you are going to be kind of like running, particular a few of the subcommittees, one of those being Pride Club. Does that sound about right?
Yes,
Yep.
that is correct.
All right. So for those of you guys interested, that's kind of how we're doing it. We're going to have a little bit of a few different advisors running around there.
Your book might have been in the last question. I'm not sure. I didn't have it pulled up, but again, that's kind of just like Pride Club. So like Mr. Toy is going to, even though it's under that big umbrella,
yeah,
going to kind of
little
bucket, and he's going to head the Pride Club bucket, for lack of a better word. And then the other stuff is headed by the other advisor as well. So
right, and maybe I did forget to put Yearbook. I was envisioning Yearbook kind of its own thing, or Mr. Toy, should we include that in the damn big tent?
I was kind of thinking of the Yearbook as its own thing, but anybody who is here is welcome to help with the Yearbook. We're going to need a lot of help. I think Aman? I think Aman or Adedoyan were going to say something about Yearbook. Maybe we could invite one of them to unmute and tell us a little bit about Yearbook.
Yeah, when we get to that part of the slideshow, for sure, we will definitely do that. So if one of you at that point want to do that, that'd be great. Okay, so one last thing that I need your information on, and this is going to be kind of a little bit of a board. We will, let's see here. Would you like to approve student comments? Yeah, no. All right. I don't want to approve everything you're about to say, but I want to give you guys some space as well to start kind of, I know obviously this is kind of putting you guys on the spot, but we are going to be talking a little bit about this at our respective first meetings. So I did want to give you guys an opportunity to maybe post some ideas when it comes to subcommittees. And I might share a couple just to get the juices flowing a little bit. So somebody said multicultural club, so maybe that might be something that goes underneath the Multicultural and Inclusion Association, maybe something with a specific focus. Jamie went ahead and said visual arts club, interesting. So maybe more of just like art or art appreciation. Faith put on. It looks like there's a few people that thought that was interesting, and a few people like kind of seconded that. So maybe underneath the Digital Media Arts Club, one of our first things that we'll talk about is possibly maybe working on creating a subcommittee like that. Kylie went ahead and put in Mind Matters Club. We've done something similar in the past, so if that's something we want to go ahead and move forward with, it'd be awesome. So Aman was talking about maybe something to do with like embroidery, painting, what have you. So like, and I think that's what they meant by Arts Club. Maybe they're just like a more broadly speaking, more creatively. Okay, so a few people are talking more about just specifically arts. And maybe if there's enough, we can break that into maybe visual arts, or maybe it's just embroidery. We just have like 5 people that get together and talk embroidery. I don't know. So let's see here. What else we got? Underwater basket weaving. I'm gonna like that one real quick. That sounds good. Let's see here. Not a club, but I thought Green Club changed its name to Green Team. And that might be the case, and we can kind of hash that out in our first Big Tent meetings when it comes to that subcommittee. But absolutely. Let's see here. Not necessarily a club, just weekly Zoom or something to check in mental health. And I think My Matters Club did something similar, and maybe that's something we could roll into that if there's enough interest for My Matters, is to like their subcommittee thing could just be a check-in where, you know, that is kind of Brittany what they do. So I think that might be a good thing. Taxidermy, I'm going to say hard pass no, but not bad. Mental Health Club and Tessie, that seems kind of in line with the Mind Matters, what they've done in the past. So very good. Debate possibly, and debate probably would fall under, even though it's not like digital media arts, but I could see how like that might work. We would just have to kind of outline what that actually entails. If it's not just yelling at each other, if it's actually formal debate, we need to we would have to hash that out a little bit. So I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. I will obviously check these, and me and Ms. Krauser will look these over and kind of formalize some of these ideas to talk about in our first meeting. But by the way, Ray, yeah, chess club would be sweet. Anybody watching Queen's Gambit like I am? Good show. It's making me
yes. Oh my God.
Yes, it's making me love chess again. But anyway, so I'm going to go back to the presentation real quick. And let me just move on. I'm going to keep that Nearpod open for those of you guys who would like to maybe continue putting a couple more ideas up there. So I'd like to open to some Q&A, but maybe actually I'll go a little out of order. So maybe we can go to yearbooks first before we get to Q&A, and then I'll leave you guys with the meeting information time one more time. So how about we take Aman or who, Adedoyan, either of you want to take it over real quick?
It doesn't matter. I can go.
Go for it.
Okay. So hi guys, my name is Aman, and I'm part of Yearbook Club. So this year's yearbook is definitely going to be different, and we would love to have everybody, whoever is interested, to come and join us. Next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, we'll be having a meeting, so we'll get to know anybody that wants to join, and we can talk about the club a little bit. And then a standing meeting we'll be having is going to be Wednesdays at 11 a.m. where we will organize our yearbook and split tasks for everybody to do. And we'd love for you guys to come and join us so we can really share our ideas and see how we can make yearbook fun this year, considering our circumstances.
Awesome. And I know that there's a link here. So what I'm going to try to do is, this might mess up my thing, but I'm going to try to get that link and then put that in the chat real quick. If that's all right with you guys. So I'm going to just go ahead and throw that in there. That's in the chat. It seems like you'd have to kind of like log in or join the class. But if you have any questions, again, I'm assuming talking to Aman or Adedoyan or emailing Mr. Toy would be the best bet for you. Alrighty. So was there one more slide? Yes, there we go. Mr. Toy, did you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So for yearbook and for the Pride Club, I've made a Clubhouse, which is really just a fun word for a Google Classroom. I think we all know how to use Google Classroom. Some of us miss it quite a bit. Some of us don't. So I created a Google Classroom Hangout, or a Clubhouse, I'm calling it. So Yearbook has a Clubhouse, and the link that Mr. Snyder just put in the chat will allow you to join our Yearbook Clubhouse. You can see comments, you can see ideas we have that we are putting together there. It's just a way for us to collect online, or for you to check in and make a comment. And the Pride Club also is going to have a Pride Clubhouse. So it's just a chance for you to check in, put a name on there, introduce yourself, and we can communicate that way. We all have a Google email account. Please use your school email account. And that just gives us a good way to stay in touch and all get all of our names in the same place. So stay in touch with the Pride Clubhouse and or the Yearbook Clubhouse if you want updates about those two clubs.
All right. Very cool. All righty. So I guess moving back a slide or two and then getting into Q&A. Just real quick, one last time. So that first week back, we are going to be having the Multicultural and Inclusive Association, if you want to take a picture of this, is going to be meeting Tuesday, January 5th at 2 o'clock. And that will be kind of like the meeting each first full week of every month. We're going to try to run that. That's going to be the time that they meet. And then for those of you guys in the DAM persuasion, We are going to be meeting Fridays at 2 o'clock. So the first meeting will be Friday, January 8th at 2 o'clock. And also at those meetings, we'll be kind of talking about scheduling some of those first subcommittee meetings throughout the rest of the month. So imagine that first week is kind of like the big tent meeting, and then subsequent weeks in between the big tents, you would be scheduling like breakout times at certain times to meet with your subcommittees. Okay. So those are the two dates that you would need. So let's go ahead and let's go to Q&A session real quick. I'm sure you guys have a few questions and we are here to hopefully answer them. So go ahead if you have any. Anicia asked, what's the code? Anicia, what are you talking about? Is there a code, Mr. Choi, for one of those clubhouses?
She said, never mind, I got it.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Does anybody want to throw a question in the chat, and or maybe just, if you have a question right now, speak on up.
Is there a deadline for when new clubs present their ideas, or new subcommittees present their ideas for clubs?
Yeah, so like Miss Krauser said, I would say that it's kind of fluid for the first few weeks, maybe the first month or so, as we kind of settle into those subcommittees. Kind of though, I think once we kind of get into a firm, like here are the subcommittees, any new subcommittee would have to go through the process of approving it through either Miss Krauser or myself before we kind of present out at the big tent meeting or umbrella meeting, whatever you want to call it. So I think at first it's going to be kind of like gauging interest. Maybe one club goes in and out kind of thing, or subcommittee goes in and out before we kind of really settle on here's where we're at. And then moving forward, we'll make it a little bit more formal. But just as years past, if you have a great idea and you got people, at least 4 people that want to get involved, then we don't want to hinder you in going ahead and creating that subcommittee. Any other questions? Was there one in the chat?
Chat.
Yeah, there was a question, but go ahead. Who was that Jamie?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is talent show its own club, or is it just something that that group is doing?
Yeah, so it's not a club per se. It's just more of just one of the events. I put it underneath there because it does require a lot of heavy lifting, with auditions and everything else. I'm just in charge of that part, but I would need members of that club to help me out with certain things. So that's why that's on there. It's not going to be like a subcommittee. However, we would probably have meetings leading up to things like planning stuff and that kind of thing. This year in particular, last year we didn't get really a chance. We were going to try to maybe do it virtual. But this year, again, we're definitely, if anything happens, at least we can try to do it virtually, talk about what that would look like. So we would probably have some meetings, but it's not like a standalone subcommittee. We don't need a chair or anything. I'll be running that part, but I'd definitely be looking for help on that. So that's why we threw that into that category. So let's see here. We got a question that says, so basically by joining these links, we join the club. I think that Mr. Choi, for your clubhouses, those are just kind of to gauge interest and kind of introduce. It's not necessarily you're signing your name and blood on something and you have to be in it.
That's correct. I just wanted students to have a place to add their name and to make a comment that everybody could see. I've left the comment section open on those clubs. So if you want to introduce yourself, you can. It's not going to commit you to anything, though, but it's an easy way for me to make an announcement about upcoming meetings. And if you want to come to a meeting or you think you might want to come to a meeting, you could just join that Google Classroom right now and you'll get notification directly.
Very cool. That sounds good. Hopefully
the yearbook clubhouse already has quite a few things going on. We are collecting ideas for the yearbook. We have a Google slideshow where students can present visual themes that they might want to see in the yearbook. And also the yearbook team is going to be eventually sending links out through the focus class so people can upload photographs. We're going to need help with people's cell phone photos this year. So in your focus class, we'll probably explain to you how you can use a Google form to upload photos that you might like to see in the yearbook. I can't guarantee that the photos you send us will be in the yearbook, but we're going to need help with photography this year. So we look forward to having everybody help, even if you're not on the yearbook staff.
All righty, we got a question for Cinema Club. I know we have done short films. Do you guys also make fun videos, like not short films? Doyen, you've kind of led it in the past. Do you want to kind of answer that maybe?
So I made a typo in my response, but the answer is definitely we do make fun stuff. Like for film festival, when people submitted things, some people had like a more serious film and another person had this whole like music video that was just Heffelbauer dancing around kind of.
And it was the best. It was very good.
It won. And if you want to propose like a silly film or like a silly theme for a month, we could choose that one. Like we did a lighthearted one for Christmas last year called Claws. That was the movie we discussed. And around Halloween time, we watched The Twilight Zone. So not all of our films are deep. In the past, we have done deep films like, do you remember the name of it? It was about world.
I missed the back half of what you said, Adedoyan. But anyway, I think what she was trying to say, not to put words in your mouth, for those of you who didn't hear, is that they do a kind of a collection of different things, right? So it's not just necessarily like super serious stuff. It can be some more lighthearted, fun stuff as well. And that goes to like what they're creating, but also what they're viewing and talking about, okay? All righty. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All righty. All right. Well, if there is none, I will stick on for a few more seconds if you would like to ask a question. It says, will the Google Classroom links be sent out in an email for those who didn't attend the meeting? I think we can arrange something like that, Mr. Toy, for sure. Yeah, bring it up to your focus teacher as well. Get them to remember to put that out there as well. That'd be awesome for whoever wrote that. So anyway, that kind of concludes the informational meeting. Again, I will just real quick flash the dates one last time for those of you guys who would like to see it, at least for Multicultural and Inclusion Association. Again, Tuesday, January the 5th. Digital Media Arts Club meeting happening Friday, January the 8th. And for those of you guys, again, interested in positions for those big tents, whether that be president, vice president, secretary, or activities coordinator. Again, this is the information that you would need. 30, 60-second video, just real quick explaining who you are, maybe what you've done in clubs in the past, why you would be a good fit for that position, and just make sure you're emailing it to Ms. Krauser if you would like to do that for MIA, or me if you would like to do that for Digital Media Arts by Sunday, January the 3rd, so we can have those ready for our first meetings, okay, where we will be talking about subcommittees, finalizing, maybe having a vote for these positions, and all that fun stuff. Okay.
And always remember that when you're filling out those college applications for some of our underclassmen and then some of our returning students, remember they're always going to ask you two things. What were some of your extracurricular, non-academic activities? Clubs, check. And what leadership opportunities have you taken advantage of? So it's really important that you're thinking about, even if you're only in 9th grade, 10th grade, and you feel like applying to college is so long in the future, it'll be here before you know it. And I promise you, you want to be able to have things to put that are relevant and meaningful in all of those boxes. And then when they ask you to write essays, like for Common App, you really want to have some of those meaningful events that you can talk about and speak to and have a personal connection to, because they get a lot of, oh, I've always dreamed of going to U of M. Not that I'm biased. I've always wanted to go to U of M, and because my dad went to U of M and my uncle and my aunt, so I just always wanted to go there. They get 13,000 million of those applications. But if you can talk about some kind of new club or activity or event or something that you either spearheaded or took part in or participated with, that's going to take you a lot further. You need to find ways to make yourself stand out and make people realize how awesome you are. And this would be one of those great ways to say, hey, I'm awesome. Look at all these awesome things I did and participated in.
Absolutely. And Brittany, there will be, for each subcommittee, there will be a chairperson. So you could chair a subcommittee. Those are other positions that you could hold. If you have a really big subcommittee, you would maybe, like, the subcommittee might decide to have kind of like some positions within it. I know that, for instance, in the past, MSA has had kind of a large group, so they've had kind of more official roles kind of broken down. So hopefully that answered your question, Brittany. So anyway, you guys are free to go. If you have any questions, I'll hang, like I said, on the line for a few more minutes if you want to just chat real quick and ask a few questions. But other than that, I do not want to hold you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see most of you guys. Yeah, do your attendance and see most of you guys back in class tomorrow, y'all.